Katya. Nastya's voice trembled as she entered her friend's office. They had been friends for 5 years and also worked together. It was at work that their friendship had begun. "Why aren't you wearing a smile?" Katya asked, noticing Nastya's sorrowful expression. Nastya's eyes dropped to the floor, and a tear escaped her cheek. She had been keeping a painful secret from her friend for days, but it had become too overwhelming to bear alone. My husband cheated on me." Nastya finally mustered the courage to share. Katya's reaction was immediate. "Oh my God, what a despicable person. How could he do that to you?" Nastya's bitterness was evident as she spoke. "Exactly. When I found out, they had already been together for 6 months. He hid it all from me, and I foolishly thought everything was fine between us." Katya noticed something else in Nastya's eyes amidst the sadness. 6 months? Wow, what are you going to do?" Katya inquired. Nastya's uncertainty was palpable. "I haven't decided yet." Katya wasn't one to hold back her thoughts. "Can you really forgive him?" Nastya's response was filled with anguish. "Katya, what choice do I have? We have 2 children together. We've been married for 8 years. The boys just started school. How can I take their father away from them?" Nastya and her husband Mikhail were parents to twins Pasha and Sasha, who had recently started 1st grade. Nastya remembered the day of their first bell, standing next to Misha, filled with pride. Everything had seemed perfect then. Little did she know, another woman had already wormed her way into Mikhail's thoughts. The revelation left Nastya questioning every blissful moment they had shared. Nastya was aware of Katya's strong aversion to cheaters, so she didn't expect her support on this particular matter. After all, Katya had gone through a divorce with her first husband due to infidelity. "Nastya, there's more to life than just having children. How do you envision your future with him? Do you think you will leave her? He'll deceive and see her again," Katya persisted, but Nastya remained firm in her belief. "He won't. I just know he won't," she replied. Katya questioned her certainty. "How can you possibly be so sure, Nastya? Just listen to me." Before Katya could finish her sentence, Nastya abruptly interrupted her. "She passed away 3 days ago," Nastya revealed. Katya's eyes widened with shock. "What? I hope it's not," she began, but Nastya quickly reassured her. "No, it's nonsense. Of course, I would never do anything to her. Although," Katya urged Nastya to be more transparent. "Although what?" "Nastya, tell me the whole truth." Nastya took a deep breath before continuing. "Well, the other day, Misha left for work and forgot his phone. I was about to leave the house when I remembered our plans for the evening. So I decided to check if everything was still on. I dialed his number and heard his phone ringing, and then something strange happened. It was like a surge of emotions overcame me. My hands were shaking. It felt as if someone was urging me to answer it." "And you gained access. What did you discover inside?" "I stumbled upon a collection of texts. They had been exchanging messages for quite some time. They were even in a romantic relationship and worked together. I assume that's where they met. As I read through their texts, I couldn't help but feel heartbroken and deeply offended. So I decided to counter her by texting her from his phone." "What did you say to her?" Katya asked with a hint of anxiety. "I wished her the worst, calling her a despicable person, and even went as far as saying I wished she was dead." "Wow, I suppose it's not entirely surprising." "That's not even the surprising part. When Misha returned home from work that day, he looked incredibly pale. I asked him what had happened, and he revealed that a coworker had tragically died. Then I began to investigate further. It turns out Elvira was hit by a car just half an hour after I sent that message. And now you believe it's your fault? That's ridiculous. It's merely a coincidence. Unfortunate? Yes. Strange? Absolutely. But it's certainly not your responsibility. I hope you're right, but there's something inside me that's still unsettled. Of course, it's only natural to feel that way. Your husband has been unfaithful to you for 6 months. Who wouldn't be bothered by that? What did you tell him? He saw the message on my phone and figured out that I had found out. He apologized profoundly, expressing that he didn't even know how it all happened. He assured me that he would never leave me or our children, and that he loved us deeply. And you believed him? Katya, it was difficult not to. What would be the purpose of him lying then? Well, maybe he had exhausted all other options. Her friend's voice was cold and slightly intimidating, but she may have been onto something. Or perhaps not. Nastya came to the realization that she needed to trust her own judgment instead of relying on advice from others. However, opening up and sharing her misfortune provided some solace, as keeping it all inside was becoming increasingly difficult. I don't think so, but the whole thing creeps me out, Nastya expressed, her uneasiness apparent. He attended her funeral yesterday. And you allowed him to go, questioned her friend. What else could I do? Everyone from their office was there. When he returned, his eyes were empty. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. It's driving me crazy. I'm trying to figure out my next steps, but my mind is a mess. Get up, commanded Katya as she approached Nastya. Obediently, Nastya rose from her chair, and Katya embraced her tightly. The hug brought a small sense of comfort to both of them. After a while, they walked together into the dining room, which was the original reason for Katya's visit, to take Nastya out to lunch. During the meal, silence prevailed as each woman was consumed by her own thoughts. Nastya struggled to determine whether she was ready to forgive her husband for his mistake. Deep down, she felt that Misha still loved her, but that wasn't the most important consideration for her. She knew that their sons adored their father. After all, they were just young boys. How could she possibly deprive them of their dad? Yes, Misha had made a grave error, and yes, he had stumbled. But was that something unheard of in this day and age? Maybe she bewitched him? Nastya questioned, unintentionally speaking her thought aloud. This idea had never crossed her mind before, but it was not entirely implausible. They had been connected on a soulful level, making plans and experiencing so many good things together over the years. Nastya had never once imagined her husband being attracted to another woman. It had simply never happened before. What? Bewitched? Katya exclaimed, shocked by Nastya's sudden declaration. Did I say that out loud? Nastya realized, feeling a bit embarrassed. Yeah, but you know, I actually believe in things like that, Katya admitted, giving Nastya a curious look. Do you want to check? Nastya glanced nervously at her friend. How else? Remember Aunt Praskovia? Everyone calls her that. She works on the second floor, Nastya reminded Katya. I told you about her once. She's a talented fortune teller. We can ask her anything you want. What do you think? Hope flickered in Nastya's eyes. She not only wanted to know if there was a hex on her, but also if there was a future for her troubled family. Should she forgive her husband's actions, or should she pack her things and leave, perhaps even kick him out for his audacity? Let's go, Nastya determinedly said, pushing her plate away, her appetite gone. Right now, Katya questioned, surprised by her friend's urgency. However, seeing the seriousness in Nastya's eyes, she nodded in agreement. The girls quickly cleared the table and made their way to the elevator. Descending to the second floor, they headed straight to Aunt Praskovia's office. She had only started working at the job 6 months ago. This building was filled with offices rented by various companies. Aunt Praskovia seemed to have a talent for making friends quickly, as rumors about her spread rapidly. Nastya was one of the few who hadn't had the chance to connect with her yet. Now, it was finally time for Nastya to uncover the truth. The two friends searched for a while, but eventually found the right office. The door was closed, but Nastya knocked confidently and heard a voice say, "Come in." Upon entering, Nastya noticed that the office was dark, with closed blinds and the lights turned off. Only a faint light shone through the open window for some fresh air. Aunt Praskovia sat in her chair, leaning back, dressed in a colorful dress that strayed from typical office attire. She had a scarf tied around her head, not in a grandma-like manner, but more fashionable. Her appearance was quite unconventional: red lipstick, vibrant beads, and chunky heels. Nastya wondered how she managed to come to work dressed like that. "Is that Aunt Praskovia?" Nastya questioned, observing her appearance. "You can simply call me Baba Pasha," the woman replied, though it didn't feel quite right to address her that way. "Just joking, girl," the fortune teller said, sensing Nastya's discomfort. "Aunt Praskovia sounds better." "Hello, I heard you read cards. Can you do a fortune telling for me?" "I can see that you have questions," Aunt Praskovia replied. "Yes, a few. Can you help me?" "First, let's turn on the lights, girls. Lunch break is almost over, and I've been resting for a while." Katya switched on the lights, instantly transforming the office into a more familiar and less mysterious environment. "Please have a seat and tell me what's going on," Aunt Praskovia said kindly. "I thought you were going to explain everything to me," Nastya replied, surprised. "I'm not a mind reader, my dear. You'll have to share your problem with me first, and then I can lay out the cards," Aunt Praskovia explained, gesturing towards the tarot deck. Nastya decided to withhold some information and only mentioned her husband's infidelity, leaving out the hex and the death of the other woman. Aunt Praskovia listened attentively, shaking her head, before shuffling the cards and laying them out with deep contemplation. "But your husband is not at fault," Aunt Praskovia declared confidently. Confused, Nastya asked, "What do you mean?" "That woman has cast a spell on him. The cards reveal it to me. You bear no responsibility for her tragic fate. It was destined for her," Aunt Praskovia explained. Nastya wondered about her own future with her husband, so Aunt Praskovia spread the cards once again and met Nastya's gaze, her words filled with mystery. "Now, it all depends on you. Only you can break the spell," she said. "How can I do that?" Nastya questioned. "You must forgive your husband and love him once more, with all your soul. That's the only way to rid him of the evil," Aunt Praskovia revealed. "And if I can't forgive him?" Nastya inquired further. "Then he will perish within a year. I'm a third-generation fortune teller, and I won't deceive you. The choice is yours, whether your husband lives or dies. Now you know what lies ahead, so make your decision," Aunt Praskovia concluded. Nastya placed 1,000 rubles on Aunt Praskovia's table, grasped her friend's hand, and together they left the office, with Nastya contemplating her options. Katya glanced nervously at Nastya and inquired, "What are you planning to do?" Nastya shook her head, unsure. Throughout the day, Nastya pondered her options. When she returned home, Misha and the children were already waiting. They rallied together to prepare dinner, with Misha taking charge while the boys diligently worked at the kitchen table, supervised by their dad. Witnessing this heartwarming scene, Nastya realized she didn't want to rob her children of their father, nor did she want Misha to lose his life. Once the children were tucked in bed, the couple sat down to have a serious discussion about recent events. Ultimately, they reached an agreement to never bring up what had transpired again. Nastya made a promise to find the strength to forgive, and Misha vowed to remain faithful. They reaffirmed their commitment on their marital bed, awakening the following morning with a renewed sense of unity, ready to face life together. As months passed, their relationship grew stronger. Nastya truly forgave her husband and found herself even more in love with him. Katya, a witness to this transformation, may not have approved of Misha's actions, but she understood why Nastya made the decision she did. One day, as Katya rode the elevator on her way to a business meeting, she unexpectedly bumped into Aunt Praskovia. "Hello," greeted Katya. Grandma Pasha reciprocated the greeting with a warm smile. "Do you remember me?" Katya asked. Grandma Pasha nodded, recalling, "Yes, you accompanied your friend, the one whose husband had betrayed her." Katya acknowledged this and added, "Yes, she is incredibly grateful to you." It's clear that you have a gift for helping others. You played a significant role in guiding her through this difficult time." Aunt Praskovia grinned and gently held the girl's hand. "Darling, let me clue you in on a little secret," she said. "I come from a long line of storytellers. Don't pay any mind to this nonsense. I'm only sharing because, well, I've been let go once again, and I won't be around much longer." "What?" Katia was taken aback. "How is that possible? You found out about the affair, but Nastya never said a word to you." "Ah, my dear, when a woman discovers her husband's infidelity, thoughts of hexes and curses tend to creep into her mind. And if someone else suggests it, well, they're more likely to believe it. It's like clockwork, really." Confusion filled Katia's voice as she asked, "Then why did you advise her to forgive him?" Aunt Praskovia chuckled. "Why, dear? Because why should a solid family be destroyed over a man's foolishness? They have 2 children, after all. Let them carry on. A woman's love has the power to mend any wound. If this Misha isn't a complete idiot, he won't stray again, or at least become better at hiding it. Nastya loves him. Let her be. Are you feeling sympathy for him?" Katia shook her head in disbelief. "So he should get away with it." "How should I know?" Aunt Praskovia shrugged. "Maybe he would have suffered. Imagine if his wife left him and the other woman tragically passed away. How could he not turn to drink? He might have even ended up dead. But everyone is alive and content now." "You can't just toy with people's lives like this," Katia protested. Aunt Praskovia's voice softened. "What did you expect? For me to tell your friend that her husband is a no-good cheater who can't be redeemed? And then what? She would be devastated, indulging in food or drink to numb her pain. Either she'd gain weight and feel unwanted, or she'd drink herself into an early grave. Is that the outcome you prefer? Besides, the other woman, the one who caused all this trouble, is no longer with us. What would be the point of leaving her husband?" Katia's expression shifted from disbelief to frustration. "You're playing with people's destinies," she exclaimed. Aunt Praskovia's smile faded, and a hint of regret filled her eyes. "Perhaps, my dear, I am, but sometimes, in the complex dance of life, even the best intentions can turn messy. All I can do is offer guidance based on what I've seen and learned. I don't engage in playing games. I focus on rebuilding families. It's a tradition that my mother and grandmother started. But why do you do that? Why not? My income is meager, and I earn another 10 to 15,000 this way. Is that such a bad thing? It's just money. Aren't you ashamed? Why should I be ashamed? If Nastya truly wanted to leave her husband, she wouldn't have sought my help. She needed a reason to stay with him, and I provided one. Is she unhappy now? No, she and her husband have reconciled. They are doing well, so what I did was wrong. Of course it was. It was deceiving. Why did you even tell me? I told you because I was fired. How can I keep this to myself now? Nastya wanted to save her husband's life, which is why she stayed. If she had a choice, she stayed with him because she still loves him regardless. Do you understand? If she had fallen out of love, she wouldn't fear death. But she doesn't know that. How could I not tell her? Katia protested. That's your dilemma, Aunt Praskovia said, smiling. But let me tell you one thing with certainty. If you disclose this to your friend, you'll destroy her family. She will be lost once again. If you remain silent, then no one will be at fault. Well, enjoy the holidays. The woman exited the office, waving her hand, and Katia stood there, shocked. It was Nastya and Misha's wedding anniversary that day, and Katia had promised to attend their celebration. A small gathering with friends was planned, but now she hesitated about going. She feared saying too much. A couple of hours later, Nastya called her friend. Katusha, just a reminder, you'll be there, right? Katia replied, of course, I'll be there, although her enthusiasm was lacking. Upon arriving at the party, Katia witnessed the joyous couple. The husband gazed at Nastya affectionately, while she looked back at him with tenderness and love. Their children happily played nearby the set table. Observing this, Katya lost any desire to disclose what she had learned from Aunt Praskovia to her friend. After all, everything seemed fine with Nastya and Misha. Let it remain that way, and who knows what the future holds.